come in I'm the teacher. And I say
Is that right up there?
yes.
Okay. All right.
Got it? Okay, so go in the back and get ready. And I'll greet you as you come in. So please go ahead.
You just didn't say that.
She got some of that.
Sorry, folks. Emergency came up. I can't handle it.
I want a goodbye as well. Goodbye, Renee. Very nice to meet you. We'll see you again soon.
Okay, want me to keep doing it now?
Well, this makes like
Slowly, okay.
The secret password, which is for every person who wants to teach, there are 30 who don't want to be taught. And you shake my hand. And
All
look
right.
in the eye. Eye contact. Let's go.
For every person that wants to teach, there are 30 that don't want to be taught.
Very welcome.
For every teacher that wants to be taught, there's 30 people that don't want to be taught.
You got it.
For every person who wants to teach, there are 30 that do not want to be taught.
Excellent. What?
Oh, for every person that wants to teach, there are 30 that don't want to be taught.
You got it. Nice work.
For every person who wants to teach, there are 30 who don't want to be taught.
Perfect.
For every person who wants to teach, there are 30 who don't want to be taught.
Sounds great. Let's move back to the front. This way. Let's do that. Yeah. This way.
For every person who wants to teach, there are 30 who don't want to be taught. Okay. For every 30 who wants to teach, there are 30 who don't want to be taught.
Yeah, there you go. 30 and 30. Back, folks. I like that.
I'm definitely a carrier, so for every person who wants to teach, there are 30 who don't want to be taught.
You got it.
For every person who wants to teach, there are 30 not wanting to be taught.
You sing that part?
No, I don't.
No bass, you got to. Yes.
For every person that wants to teach, there's 30 that don't want to be taught.
Like the eyebrow. Very expressive.
I need to consider
Okay? No, got it. Okay, how's that in the back sound okay? Okay, welcome to fun activities to motivate students, but actually that's the talk I gave 2 years ago and it was well received, so cross out students and put in teachers. I have been teaching, well, since 1976, and I'm looking for 20 more years. If I am lucky, here's one of the earlier signs of my prowess. And it says student identification, but that actually is teacher. In fact, I think this might be the exact same coat that I wore.
Long live standard! 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 Long live standard!
Just stop! You guys, you're battling it. You're on the same side. I don't know how you're saying that standards is the answer or standards is the problem. The problem is that's largely that. So I'll tell you what the real problem is. If you'll just find a seat someplace and just hang in there, okay? Thank you. Oh wait, it'll all be fine. I had a bet with a chemistry teacher. Who knows what NGSS stands for, or new? Yeah, she said hardly anyone. Okay, so I've been teaching a long time, and I've had some success. I mean, I really love it, and I'm looking, as I say, for a lot more time in the classroom. So I'd like to find out how you feel about teaching. So I have a quick survey. It basically asks 3 questions. Bust out your cell phone if you have one. How much autonomy do you have in your classroom? Autonomy means you decide what happens in your classroom. And number 2 is how much autonomy would you like to have? So the first one is, here's the present reality. Second question is, here's what I'd like reality to be. Now, if they're the same, like me, then hey, you're totally happy. But if they're not the same, then there might be some happiness upgrade that you could go through. And the third question asks in a longer form, how do you want your students to remember you? So this is the QS, or what's it? QRS? Okay. Oh, QR code, okay. So if you can either, I don't know how to use a cell phone, but if you can photograph that guy or input that thing, you'll find 3-question survey. The first 2 are multiple choice, and the third one is a text one. And then I, being a master of technology that I am, is going to figure out what your answers are. Yeah, so it's the 2 minutes to say, right? Oh, close it, all right. Yeah. Okay. And then, so the responses like. Yeah, I'll go back. Let's see here. Yeah, okay.
I'm already there. You guys are
Is that better? No.
No.
How about that? Okay. White blue is the ready thing. So, can I go to the next thing and see what your results are? Yeah. Got it? Yeah, ooh. Okay. So this is the reality. Whoa. Shift you around here. Ooh, it's working. We don't want any light blues. So far, it looks as if about half of you are saying that you're the one in charge of your kingdom or queendom, as the case may be. And I think feeling like you're doing what you want to do is what makes the job enjoyable, I think, as opposed to what that springboard people want you to do. So, that's what that's looking like. Let's go down and look at the second question. What would your ideal situation be? Ooh, interesting. So it looks as if some people are not these wild, egotistical firebrands like me that want total control. They want some guidance. Cool. So maybe the people that are saying that they're, getting guidance here are happy with the guidance. In which case, go for it. We have diversity in the classroom, and that's a good thing. Now, the next thing here is a list of what people said, and you can't see the text. Oh, you can see it. Okay. So you would want someone to say that you cared about them. I'm the one who taught them to chase dreams, not money. Ooh, who said that? Yeah, nice. Oh, I bet you already. You're the creative guy who was doing the double out there. Let me talk about this entrance thing for a second. No, that's come later. Forget that. You learned a lot. T, you inspire me to be on every day. The class was so much fun, and you truly love what you do. Yeah, if you love it, how could they not? Well, it goes on and on. That's a wrong one. I learned more different ways to relate to the real world. Research, reading, writing, multimedia, then I realized what's possible for me. Opening kids' eyes to how cool the world is. I mean, I live in Fresno, and I'd say a good fraction of my students have never been outside the city limits of Fresno. So it's a sad situation, but it sounds like one thing that you hope kids will remember is that you opened their eyes. Okay, well, let's go back, if we can. Yeah. So this guy. Do I get your PowerPoint? Yep. Okay. And then, okay. Oh, yes. So I think we should break the ice in here because this is such a stiff format. So what I'd like to do is sing a song for you. And, what are the words? The hard ones.
You smashed them.
Oh, yeah, this one. So I need 3 people to help me up here. You're going to be the word show-offer. And you just pick someone. Yeah, okay. 2. Yeah.
You're not asleep? You need one more?
Yeah, no, 3 is fine. Okay, yeah, so no, I need someone here. Yeah. So here's how it works. These are the chorus that you guys are singing. And this is a song I wrote when I was a biology teacher many years ago. It kind of wrote itself. It's inspired by the huge ratio, which is 1 to 300 million, which is the number of eggs a woman makes at one time, and the number of sperm in one ejaculation. So when you have a huge difference like that, we're talking a significantly different agenda on Saturday night. So what you guys are going to do is, when I say I'm a male in the chorus, you're going to go like this, so they know it's time to sing, say, love comes easy. And then I say, I'm a male again, and you go, come on, now you got your 2 hands like that. Yeah, perfect. Okay. I'm a male. I'm not sleazy, just a victim of my genes. Okay. Now, I do this every Friday, sing songs, but we have a campfire. Does anyone have a lighter? Oh, yeah.
It's California, come on.
Okay.
And that was the last time that we ever had the ECC.
Okay. So, here we go. Oh, yeah. If you think I'm gonna love you till my time on earth is up, that the passion we may fashion here will fill your loving cup, I'll tell you true, I won't speak, 'cause I'm programmed to obey that licensed siren, twisted tyrant, double DNA. I'm a male, I'm a male, I'm a male, just a victim of my dreams. I'm a male, I'm a male, I'm a male, just a victim of my dreams. Yes, castrate to be amazed and see what life is for. From shark to shrew, from tree to canoe, from north to blackstone whore. The games they play called life and death, but everybody dies. The winners are the ones who live within their children's eyes. I'm a male, I'm a male, I'm a male, just a victim of my dreams. I'm a male, I'm a male, I'm a male, just a victim of my dreams. You fell for me so hard you took me home to mom and dad, 'cause your ovaries were begging please for the kid you never had. I hear you boy and you can tell a child to love and hold. Just trust in me, my love for thee will grow till it grows old. I'm a male, I'm a male, I'm a male, just a victim of my dreams. I'm a male, I'm a male, I'm a male, just a victim of to make it. The thread we may soon be seen. Little new moon is a human being. My passionate commitment to commit to passing now is a long shot from my dear heart to make a lifetime vow. So let's trade hearts for gifts for now, each other's flesh adore. Cause monogamy grows soggy, fun today but soon a bore. I'm a male, I'm a male, I'm a male, just a victim of my dreams. I'm a male, I'm a male, I'm a male, just a victim of my Is that fun? Sure. Have time for one more? Okay, lights out. Any way to get lights out? Troy, try that back there. That might be right. It's on your right side. This is a song you probably ought to know. It's the Gallup song. Da, 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 Okay. So, what I do is I say da da da, and you guys come back with da da da. You probably already know the song. When I wake up, yeah, you know what it be. I'm gonna be mad who wakes up next to you. When I go out, yeah, you know what it be. I'm gonna be mad who goes along with you. Oh, yeah. Can you hold this here? Don't make it too hot, just a little space, but just not. When I go out, yeah, you know what to do. I'm gonna be there who goes along with you. When I get drunk, yeah, you know what to do. I'm gonna be there who gets drunk next to you. And when I have up, yeah, you know what to do. I'm gonna be the man who takes away with you. I'm gonna be the man who takes away with you. And I would walk 500 miles, and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walks 1,000 miles to fall down. Here we go. Da 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 da. Oh yeah. Yeah, you know what it be. I'm gonna be there who's working hard for you. When the money comes in from what I do, I promise everything on to you. When I'm lonely, yeah, you know what it be. I'm gonna be the man who's lonely when I leave. And when I'm dreaming, yeah, you know what it be. I'm gonna be the man who's dreaming when I leave. I'm gonna be the man who's dreaming without you. And I would walk 500 miles, and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walks 1,000 miles to fall down. Da 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 da. Yeah. Da 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 da. When I'm lonely, yeah, you know what to do. I'm the man who's thinking about you. When I do that, yeah, you know what to do. I'm the man who's thinking about you. When I go out, yeah, you know what to be. I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you. And when I come home, yeah, you know what to be. I'm gonna be the man who's coming along with you. I'm gonna be the man who's coming home. And I would walk 500 miles, and I would walk 500 more
Encore.
Okay, lights back there somehow. Yeah, please, if you get them. Oh, were those words up there?
No.
Anyways, I have a problem. I'm a great teacher. At least I think I am. You know, legend of his own mind. But I'm going to give you some suggestions. And if I can up my credibility, then there's more likelihood that you would actually take those suggestions to heart. But the problem is, as Judith Martin says, it is more and more impressive when others discover their good qualities without your help. But I need to help you discover my good qualities because you don't have enough time. So let's start off here. Let's see what this thing's good at. Yeah, just, I don't know if I'm not.
Sorry.
So anyways, last summer, last summer, the district came to me and said, well, the head of risk management came and said, they had all these guys go by in Dockers and Smiles, and then they came back with a report which says, your room is unsafe. Earthquake and fire unsafe. So I had a choice, which was get it into code, or this room will not be allowed to have students in it come fall. That's a pretty clear threat to what I love to do. So what I decided was, hey, I'll deal with earthquake problem. I mean, I have this whole giant loft thing. That's my classroom. And so we built this huge screen that you just barely saw there. And then the head of risk management came in for the big meeting about this whole thing. He walked right by the screen. Didn't look at it, didn't say a word about it. Well, my friend who is a janitor and knows all the janitors at the school went around asking them, so how's this earthquake proofing project going? And to a person, every janitor looked at him and said, what are you smoking? They knew nothing about an earthquake project. So that led me to believe they were after me. I'm at the top of the salary schedule. I'm unpredictable, loose cannon. But what he said was, if you want to keep teaching this school, you have to remove all of your personal property from the school. Well, did you see all that junk? It's all my shit. Because what I'm going to do is take it out? No, I don't think so. But I had to somehow, I mean, this guy who's my Uber boss in terms of safety, say this. So I went on Facebook and I made a post in which I explained what's happening. And I asked former students, do you think all my stuff is important in the educational experience you had? And I had kids going back to Lodi High School in 1981 responding. I mean, had like a couple hundred responses. It was pretty cool. And the responses were pretty positive, like this one. Mr. Ratcliffe, you don't know me, but you taught 3 of my children at Edison. With my youngest now 30 years old, the name I remember from my kids' experiences at Edison is Mr. Ratcliffe. If my kids ever came home from school excited about something they learned or did in high school, it was something they got in your class. I would say that means you're doing something, or rather everything, right. Go on. Well, I had a lot of responses, and I limited myself to 2. This was pretty long, but actually, I used to blow up pumpkins, you know, like for a class project. And this kid, her first response was, but she used the complete word, F the school district, blow up a pumpkin. But then she became more articulate, and this is her second response. Well, I guess you wound up having dozens of little Ratcliffes. That's my name. After all, look at how many minds you opened to science. Generations, hundreds of young minds indoctrinated to disparage and undervalue science, largely to hide their fear of the very concept of that which is science, who now have at very least an appreciation of science, and for many a true love of the field and all its wonders. But I don't think you realize that in providing an arena for these kids to challenge and then overcome their fears of not being smart enough for science, you instilled a greater sense of accomplishment in them that created a lasting and powerful platform for them. including me, to take on other studies or life challenges that scare them with an experiential confidence that they are capable of tackling the hard stuff with confident anticipation as opposed to dreadful consternation. I think no one exemplifies this better than Alison Lambert, the woman who spoke, the mountain climber. Right? Man, what can't she do at this point, right? Well, it goes on. I guess what I'm trying to say is you teach so very much more than science, more than scientific concepts and experimental procedures.
You teach young people how to think beyond the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s of education. You give them the gift of trying the challenge that stays with them and influences every success they enjoy from then on. I think we all showed you in one way or another.
That your influence over our ability to learn has changed us in ways we both recognize and hold valuable for future generations of students. Thank you for being you. You are a blessing in my dark and painful young world in more ways than you will ever know then and now.
Now, as a precaution, your amount is may vary. At the end of this, I have a couple of suggestions that you might consider. I do nothing but teach. I'm down there 7 days a week, no wife, no kids, no college payment, no home student loans, nothing. So it's a pretty extreme situation. And people that are a wife and a father, a wife and a mother and a teacher, how do they even do that? So it's just one trick pony. So it makes it easy. Now, let's take a look at what Leonardo da Vinci has to say about how schools run. Just as eating against one's will is bad for one's health, force feeding. You know how they make foie de gras? Like French pâté? How do they do that? Force. Stuffed corn, yeah, just the same color as your sweater. Exactly like So that's called force feeding facts. So study without a liking for it spoils the memory, and it remembers nothing it takes in. Ever had a student like that? Yeah. So we have this quote, which you all know pretty well by now. And it would seem as if they don't want to be taught. Maybe it's because the method of teaching. Which leads to this kind of thing. If you can't read the caption, it says, I'll go to my room and do my homework, but I want time and a half. So, let's take a look here. You know what a logical syllogism is? It's a series of statements that lead to a logical conclusion. So let's practice with one here. All ravens are black. This bird is a raven. Fill in the blank. This bird is black. Okay, simple, right? So the first two statements lead to the third one. Well, here's the little longer one. Students don't like to study. To measure educational progress, schools must administer standardized tests. 3, to do well on standardized tests, students must study. Students fill in the blank. School. A school, yes. Maybe dislike, but maybe in some cases A. I mean, the number of kids I have in my classes who just don't like coming to school at all, except for Fridays when we do campfire. So, to show how far this whole business of we must have tests to make sure, who knows what ACS stands for? Well, this is great when I found this out. We had this standardized, the test of standards, right? I'm the science teacher, had the science standards. But then they came up with the ACS. Well, the ACS is because they started to include so many standards, because everyone has their favorite standard about, physics, electromagnetics, or motion, or whatever. So they had such a large body that they realized, oh, that's too many. So what they did was, they said, okay, we want to know all these standards, but some of them are really important. They're the critical standards. If you don't know these, your life is pointless. So that, I think, kind of gives me a sense that it's just totally out of control as far as testing and deciding what kids need to know to be educated. So, to show you how it's even worse than that you force feed kids this knowledge and they learn it for the test, I'd like to tell you about the dirt equation. Distance equals rate times time. If you past 5th grade, you probably did a problem like this. Car goes 50 miles an hour for 2 hours, goes 60 miles. Okay. Well, I was teaching physics, and I decided I'm going to really concentrate on the dirt equation. So we spent almost a month on it. I mean, we had electric cars racing around the room and predicting how far they go based upon the past velocity and just all kinds of stuff. And I gave the test, and man, scores were just great. They really got the dirt equation. A month later, just on the lark, I snuck in a question about the dirt equation when we were studying momentum or some other topic. All done. So, one other case, just to make my case here. John. Oh, we didn't bring the stick, did we? Okay. Well, I have some kids that they're building this water tower, and they're measuring it, taking a stick that's 75 centimeters long and cutting it in half. So I walked around the room a couple times, came back, and they were still trying to figure out where to cut the stick. I said, well, okay, so what's half of 75? Just do the math. No answer. Okay, what's half of 70?
I teach English.
Okay, what's half of 80? 5 80. A kid says 50. And the other kid thinks about it 60. The third kid busts out his cell phone calculator to figure out the answer. And these are kids that are taking at least geometry and probably algebra too. So as far as useful knowledge, I don't think, at least in my classes, my kids are well prepared. Maybe yours are different. So I came up with a brilliant insight, which is if I can plug the gaps in my students' knowledge, then I can go on and teach physics, and they'll get it, because these holes are preventing them. It's like holes in the road. You can't go along the road, it's got these giant potholes. So what I decided to do, this is another, what do you call it, badge thing, and my headband is made of starburst. And down below here it says 1/2 plus 1/3 equals. So I thought, how to plug the holes into knowledge, which is ask questions. So simple. So I made this whole giant three-class competition. We had these giant clear plastic cylinders with this little electric guy across the top. So every time you put the starburst in, it went whee! It'd be like a TV quiz show. And we went through the month of September this way. And every time you asked a question, then you would get to spin the wheel. And it would land on a number which would be your multiplier. So if you land on a 2, you get 2 starbursts instead of 1. And if you ever landed on 5, that was the super bonus. If you land on 5, notice the light goes through and whee! I mean, how much more excitement do you want, right? But we had actually, we got more excitement than that because I offered a pizza party, but I had it structured. So the first time you asked a question, you got 4 starbursts, second time 2, third time 1, and after that, no starbursts. So you become useless if you're that annoying kid that answers all the questions. Well, September, we had first, second, and third place, and then October, as you know, is the longest month of the school year, so that meant we had a longer time. Now that we were into the roll of this thing and we were in our group and we make it work well. So these are the 3 starburst things, and the winning starburst group got a pizza party, and I mean, I was force feeding pizza down these kids' faces. I mean, I'm a teenager, right? How much do you want? I have the whole pizza. And soda. I mean, I just really wanted them to realize this is something that's worth competing for. So here's September, first, second, and third place, number of starbursts in the bucket. And October was like this. I was teaching them to not ask questions and get a pizza party. So much for that. Well, let's take a look at what Oscar Wilde has to say. Education is an admirable thing, but it's well to remember from time to time that nothing worth knowing can be taught. It doesn't say learned, it says taught. Now, as you may know, if you have recently looked up in the book, in the dictionary, teaching, you see that VT on the other side of teaching? It's kind of small there. VT here? That means, it says teacher. What is VT? Transitive verb, yes, okay. What's an example of a transitive verb? Did he give an example?
Oh, do you give an example of
Teach.
To spread, you need peanut butter. You can't spread nothing.
Okay, spreading peanut butter, yeah. As opposed to sleeping. You don't sleep peanut butter. So, since it's a transitive verb, it needs an object and it goes to, like, the student, okay? Well, unfortunately, many of our students are getting a meta lesson beyond the lesson that is being taught to get them ready for the standards test. I had a student that was taking 4 AP classes in my non-AP chemistry class. And at the end of the year, she wrote this in her evaluation. How tragic is that? That the top kids at the top magnet school in Fresno Unified are learning that knowledge is boring. I mean, it's pretty bad. And we are not a victim of our genes, we're a victim of the experts that are, I think, telling us how to teach. So, this is my favorite cartoon. The teacher's writing, knowledge is its own reward. And then this eager hand in the front row says, will this be on the test? Well, as you saw from the side coming in, Einstein observed not everything that can be counted counts. It's certainly possible to count exactly how to the nearest time. Oh, wow. Yeah, this guy. Did anybody happen to pick this thing up? Next level certification, precision exams. This is one of the things that the exhibitors had. And they have a beautiful young lady playing guitar. I couldn't find a single guitar tested there. But it looks like a lot of fun. They should show a kid sitting there sweating, feeling on Scantron, but that wouldn't, But it's possible, and it's very seductive to think, man, I could give a 73.2 to this student, and that means that student is smarter than, or better educated than 73.1. You can rank everything. But as Einstein observes, not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts, like education, like happiness, can be counted. I heard from a friend of mine that they actually had a Scantron test to test in an English class creative writing. Yeah, I don't get it either. Starting this school year, I thought I was not going to learn anything in my science class. I thought that because in my previous science classes, I did not learn anything. But now I know I actually learned many stuff out of this class. I might not be learning according to English rules, according to standards, but many other more important things. I wish there were more classes like this in my life where the true learning comes from. I mean, kids get it. This class has changed me, though it's only been a week. I now know the school in the long run is not just about passing a class or studying so you can get a good grade or pass a test. This class has taught me to believe in myself and don't give up and have confidence. Mr. Ratcliffe has also taught me that it doesn't matter how smart you are or where you come from. But if you really want to learn something, you have to put your mind to it and don't listen to what anyone says. I mean, what more priceless lesson could a kid get? Every day I look forward to coming to Mr. Ratcliffe's class. For example, a lot of stuff has been going on lately, like problems at home. I mean, every kid that comes in has this entire history, in many cases really an impossibly difficult history, and we're supposed to sit down and learn about pressure times volume equals MIT. I don't know. I have a problem figuring out how to put those two together. Mr. Ratcliffe's jokes and his whole attitude motivates me and makes me happy. That I was making you happy at that door. That brightens my day. Another thing that this class has taught me is that you can be anything you want. Just put your mind to it. So, this is my one-size-fits-all universal lesson objective. Students will learn more than I teach them. It's up on the wall every day. I don't change it every day. So don't tell them. I don't change it every day because every student is going to take whatever I present to them and then mix it with what they already have experienced in life and synthesize a new understanding. So of course they're going to learn more than I teach them. They already know a lot, and they're just adding it to it. It's funny how all my other classes, all we do is work and learn nothing. But in your class, we do little work and learn things we'll remember forever. Like, how about studying acid and base chemistry? Well, acid and base chemistry, any chemistry teachers out there? Every student there is focused on their own lesson. And they're figuring out ratios of vinegar to baking soda and how hard to press that thing and how far to shake it and everything. to hit the missile silos on the other enemy side. I mean, it's acid-base chemistry, but it's also Newton's first and second laws, is pg equals nRT. There's a lot of stuff going on there. But by doing this, and then doing pv equals nRT, I feel you end up getting the kids to walk over something that they can do all on the test, and also remember for many years to come. Now, this entrance exam, actually I have John Bird to thank for that. Raise your hand, John. I guess last year he said, I shake my students' hand when they walk in the door. And I said, hey, we'll try that. Well, I've been doing that ever since, but I have gone a little bit farther. I put an entrance exam or a entrance survey or something over the door. In this case, we're studying simple math here, and that's called 2 times 3 equals 3 times 2. Is that distributive or associative law? Well, it's a math law. This is one where we were actually doing an egg drop, and the kids could not understand the idea that they could do anything they wanted. And so they kept on coming to me, Mr. Ratcliffe, is it okay if we use a 2x4? Is it okay if we use shaving cream? And I got so tired of saying, you know the answer. So I just said, YKTA. YKTA. And they said, what? Oh, yeah. And then, so that was the entrance exam for the day, just to refresh their memory that when I say YKTA, it means you already know the answer. Don't ask that question. Of course you can do it. Sometimes the secret password is kind of weird. But people that walked in, I said, sorry, that's not the password. And you can learn from your students so much. What's your biggest fear? Public speaking, gang violence, bugs, and insects. I couldn't believe how many people said bugs and insects. I mean, we lived in a neighborhood. I had a talk with a few of my students the other day, and about a third of them had had their house robbed. And yet bugs and insects were a bigger fear than... One, two, 4.
Rain, rain, go away, come again another day. All the family wants to play. Rain, rain, go away.
With one day for a question, so I had some students that hang out in my room in the morning come up with rain, rain, go away thing. And look at all the smiles on these kids. It's like, welcome to Ratcliffe class. We're having fun before you even get to class. And I have discovered that it's possible to teach memorization this way, because kids are way better at memorizing long things now than they were the first week of school. This is my 4th period physics class, entering Azrin, who's consider buying a whiteboard and having some fun that way. Now this is P equals nRT, universal gas law, chemistry. I used to teach chemistry, and this is probably a standard cheat sheet for a test in a chemistry class. But there are other ways that you can learn about pressure and volume for a gas. And unfortunately, because so much of kids' future is seen in the parents' eyes as getting to the right school, so then how much are you going to spend on Princeton Review to make sure that your child has a high enough SAT score to get into Stanford and then land a job in a hedge fund on Wall Street? Well, I call this the monetization of education, where it's not about learning. No, it's about making buckets of money. Is there anything I can do for extra credit, like give you money? So there's other ways to study pressure and volume, and this is another one of my badges. This is a can of beans, And over here we have what used to be a can of beans. I'll just pass this around if you want. You'll notice that this is a single piece of steel from the bottom out to the side, but the top has been crimped closed so you can open the can opener. So if you put this thing upside down and then put it on top of a Bunsen burner, light it and run, then what happens is it gets really hot in there. If you put a thermocouple on top, you can actually measure the temperature, and you can determine T on the equation back there. Well, when it finally does open up here, it opens up all at once. So the entire bottom just takes off, and I'll pass this around. Let's see. It blows about 300 feet in the air, and it makes this giant cloud of steam and this huge full-throated boom. Your chest just shakes when you hit this thing. And afterwards, all the beans, there are no beans. There's a 4-foot diameter circle of bean mist on the ground. It's 59 cents for the best lab that you could ever do in the United States. So that's another way to learn about pressure and volume. This class was different from all the other science classes. It's over. 2:30. Oh, phew, okay. This was one class I actually looked forward to. We didn't have the restrictions like the rest of the classes. So this kept us from sticking to typical projects. Because restrictions are inversely proportional to creativity. I mean, that's the whole point of creativity, is to not have restrictions. You also didn't care if it worked or failed, which I think is the first time in my life where the teacher or the student has not cared about whether or not the project works or fails. Remember what Allison said about failure today? Freedom to fail. This class was also more exciting than any other science class because of things like Lord of the Bearings, match rockets, and the Tesla, and pizza, chocolate, and rockets, just a bunch of things we do. And that spinny thing with the UV light. In short, all those projects were amazing, and it's too bad we could not do all the things we should have. So this is a hybrid child who understands that really we're supposed to be getting prepared for the standardized tests. But man, we sure had fun not doing what we're supposed to do. But the last sentence. But this class was, in my opinion, the greatest learning experience I've had. So I think if you talk to this kid a while, you might feel that we shouldn't have done those things because we got more out of the class by not doing what we're supposed to do. So, oh, please.
Go ahead, play. Go ahead, play, Bruce.
Oh, can you make it work? I'm showing what people won't believe. All the activity going on here. Oh, yeah. You guys got any questions? No. I feel good, huh? Okay. So you find something? Okay, now those are CREEs. C-R-E-Es, what are you looking for? So everyone, Noelle, what you got going here?
We are looking for letters more.
Okay, did you find one?
No.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Oh, and it shows up. Oh, on the let's write something here. That's the thing you saw when you walked in. Every group of 3 students is working on a different project. We were just ripping apart technology and seeing if we could make something fun with it. So these guys, they took apart a big projector and found that cube inside there, and then put this whole thing together with some kind of RC car back wheel thing. And you have to have 120 volts. There's no battery to stick up to do that. Too dangerous. How you doing? Where? Going good? Well, then you want it bent like that, or you want it straight? Straight. Well, we'll take it out of here and whack it on the... Can you get the whole thing out? Well, let's get this guy off first. If you can't get it in the next 3 minutes off, check with me. I'll show you where we can get it off. How are we doing? 3 minutes later. Okay, let's see if we can come up with a better way. Let's take it out a second. Oh, piece of cake. Here, hold this. That's it. It's a piece of cake. You're taking the pinky now, okay? Now look at this thing. You see the way it's got this little black thing that goes on there? And here we've got a black thing that goes on there? Yeah. So I'm best guessing if you just twist this thing. I mean, what do you think? Okay. So you gotta study, right? Okay. Now we got. Now this thing, we can put a handle on here. So you wouldn't believe how much more you know than your kids. I mean, most of them. They don't have garage, so they don't work on their dad's car or anything anymore. They just work on their thumbs.
Right.
But it's so cool to just have them do things. I mean, my room is a total mess, and it's 2,000 square feet, so it's not a typical classroom. But it gives the students a chance to play around and just do all kinds of things. They're working on windows now, and I'm so delighted that they didn't even ask me if they could do some really crazy way to build a windmill. I'm sure at the start of the year, earlier this year, they said, is it okay if we, and now they're just doing it. So I think that they're picking up a very useful confidence and the skill at being creative. Well, this is Fresno Playmill. One of my favorite projects is the water tower, where we build, or the kids build these stick water towers, and then you put a little swimming pool on top and fill it with water until it breaks down. You effectively stripped me of most of my academic self-confidence, but yet left me wanting to fail if that meant learning an essential lesson. So here's the water tower being filled. Notice the little triangles. And it has, I think they got 28 gallons of water in there before something happened. Every kid will fail. Now, how many friends do you see there? I mean, it's like having a water fight. Everyone loves to get wet and to wet others. My physics class, we're not talking about. Water tower score is how many gallons you hold times how tall your tower is divided by the weight of your tower. So these guys learned the lesson. They have a really tall tower because it's times the height of the tower. And they're filling, if you look at the top there, you can see water coming in. This was the winner, actually. Watch this water. Oh. So, good times. This is a philosophy theory, but we have time, so I just get go on. My whole academic experience has been books, notes, study, review sessions, and tests. I think that most of our top students can say the same thing. This class threw most of that out the window. I think that has changed me and my perspective, and this will last forever. We were told that many things were simply done for fun. I can remember thinking about how to have fun. Class was a time for serious matters. I should be preparing myself for the future, and this was no time for fun. So I went through most of the activities with resentment. Then the day came when we made the giant pizza. I do not think I've ever had so much fun in a class in my life. For one, I really enjoy cooking. I do it for fun on my free time. So I came into this activity partial to fun. This day really changed my perspective of class, and I had actually fun. I learned that I can find joy in places I would never have imagined. So this kid was a hard nut to crack, and we did the pizza at the very end of the year, and the entire year up to then, he was like kicking and screaming, teach me physics, I want to learn this stuff for the test, teach me physics. And then the lights went on when the oven went on. So he talks about joy at school. How could you even think about joy at school? Well, food is joy for a teenager. Yeah, baby. I have a bunch of those cheese left over, so I bought some cheese and had a quesadilla party. Okay, we have a little action here too. Yeah, a lot of little action here. Oh yeah, good, good. Ay, 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 nice and hot. Ooh, look at those dillas. How could be more silly and more unstandard test-oriented than making quesadillas? But man, as far as getting the students to want to come to class, because I didn't tell them we were going to do this, we just did this. So the element of surprise, I think, is a useful one. Okay, we're having a contest called Lord of the Buildings here. We're dividing up the building blocks for making castles. What's the team captain? cups of tea. Like a bunch of ants at a picnic on a piece of chicken. So, this is called rotor bearings, and I have these big long aircraft aluminum tubes and huge steelies with a bag attached to it. And you just push on the bag and blow a steely, and it goes down the other end of the classroom and knocks down a castle, which is protecting a king. As you can see here, one of the kings has already been knocked down. 2, 3. So whoever knocks down the 7 kings of the other team first, they win. So at the end, it's like nip and tuck. Because every time there's a ball that's shot, there's a cheer. Either because the defense worked, yay, or else the offense worked, yay. But it's a very exciting game. So let's take a look at just a brief section of action here. Boys are shooting here. Yeah, joy, school, they can come together. Joy, school can come together if the kids get a chance to experience what it's like to be a mechanic when they're too young to have a license. Go! So this is all made with used stuff. I had to buy the drills on eBay for $6 a piece, but basically it's just throwaway stuff from the hospital and from a wheelchair company. And the kids have to build the cars. So they learn about wrenches and screws and bolts and 420s and all that kind of stuff. So electric cars are pretty exciting. But you know what beats e-cars? HPVs. No, not what you're thinking. Human-powered vehicles. Hey, Mark! Get set! Go! You may be too young to get this. Another valuable lesson I learned is that just because something is irrelevant does not mean it's not important. I saw how class operated and how irrelevant to physics a lot of the lessons were. And to be honest, I was bothered by it. I felt if I wasn't going to learn about physics, I was wasting my time in the class. I'm going to skip down then. I remember sitting in class toward the end of the days during campfire, which at this point was my most irrelevant thing in class. Then we started playing a song on the ukulele, which is an instrument I truly adore. At this moment, I realized it was okay to take time out of one's busy week to sit back, relax, and just hear a song. Music. I mean, do kids like music? So if you can somehow put music in there. That's my brother. We're running out of time, so I wish I could show you more, but anyways, fun concert. But I wanted the physics, sorry, not time. I learned very little physics in this class, but who cares? When in life will I see a car going downhill and have to find its momentum and velocity to save a church full of kittens? Never! Kittens don't go to church. You learn about how to see the world without having other people see it for you, which is what every textbook is. We also learned how to read, think, search, and vote in the physics class. I did it. I believe I learned more this year than in any of the years I've spent in school, and I'm proud of it. Contrast that with, come away from the window. You don't want to be a child left behind, do you? And we have PE, science, and the arts out the window, but most kids are dutifully getting ready for the test. Thank you for being what I'm sure most other students would call a bad teacher. where other teachers challenged me with dates to memorize and facts to analyze, you were the only one to not only ask me questions I had no idea how to even begin to answer, but who welcomed, prepared me for the real world. Not everything that's worth knowing is going to be in a book right in front of you, or be taught to a certain curriculum, and you've proved that to the entire class plenty of times. At the end of the journey that is your chemistry class, I feel not only utterly confused, what kind of teacher is this? I mean, this is really a radical guy, very smart kid, right? But the idea that you're not trying to get them to understand chemistry, to get them to realize how confusing it is and how little they understand it. But I just love this quote, so I put it anyways. But glad to have been part of it. You effectively stripped me of most of my academic self-confidence, yet let me wanting to fail if that meant learning an essential lesson. And here's a Stanford-bound kid that said this: as sad as I am for getting a B, I like to believe that what I'm taking away from your class is worth more than any A. Because one of the things that I would like to show you is a field trip that I took with my kids. And it was a walking field trip that cost not a dime. It's a really cool video, but I want to leave some time for some remarks from you. So let's just take a look here. That pizza oven you've been hearing about, I've been doing it a long time. It's made of a lot of sand. All the kids build the oven in one day. It's fired with oak. Takes 3 hours to preheat. Makes a 4-foot diameter pizza and does it in 8 minutes, and it feeds everyone gets a fat slice of the best pizza they've ever had. So here's the pizza. Now, it didn't look like this the first year. Remember Allison talked about failure and then you learn from your failures. One of the first years I had steel, I put sand on top because sand would hold the heat. But I didn't realize that if you put enough hot wood inside there, steel gets soft. And so the steel basically, and we had to prop it up with 2x4s and then sneak little pizzas in to try to save face because, but anyways, this is 25 years later and now it's really a good project and it's something the kids look forward to every year. I went to Campfire, I helped build a pizza oven. I did all of your activities in biology camp. I even did a 5-year letter, which is, they write a letter and I send it back to them in 5 years. And yet I never actually formally had you as a teacher. But somehow you were still one of my favorite teachers of all time. The way you teach made me want to be taught. Not one of the 30. The learning environment that you established for your students made me want to be in your classroom, even though I didn't have to be. Consider that. At a time when all I wanted was to get out of school, you created a learning environment that made me want to spend extra time there. A quarter of a century later, now with a child of my own, I know that the world needs more of you, not less. Well, yeah, pretty nice. So, my suggestions to you. Relax. Spread your wings. They can't fire you. Remember Alison Levine advised, fear is good, complacency is bad? Fear is bad. I heard open conversations with some really competent, seasoned biology teachers one time, and they were saying, oh, I'm not going to be able to cover all the standards this year. What are they going to do? They're not going to fire you. Now, the other thing that Allison said is complacency will kill you. No, complacency will let you stay comfortable not pushing yourself and trying things that might fail. Stick with the standards. Yeah, go ahead. It's the easy route. So let's go back here. They can't fire you. In 10 years, your students will have forgotten every standard you taught them. Just say it. The simplest hands-on activity will make more lasting memories than the best lecture you ever wrote. Field trips. They're cheap. Food. Students value your creativity more than any technological expertise. And lastly, have more fun. If you do, so will your participants. It might be good on Everest to be a battlefield, but not here. Now, suppose you say, I teach English. Well, I teach English too. I'm a sub. And once in a while, I didn't get anyone else. Once in a while, I'm asked to sub, and I sub for hey, yeah, come help me, would you please? I was teaching Crime and Punishment, and I realized that I should read a little bit if I'm going to be a sub, so I could, do this upright. Can you get that twist off? Got good eyes. So, Crime and Punishment is actually a great book. I read it in high school, and I realized when I read book one, boy, high school does a great disservice because it makes you be able to check off your list thinking you read it. I had no idea how great Dostoevsky was until I read it as an adult. So, in this book, what we decided to do, what I decided to write subs, was look at the idea of the cosmos. And, yeah, here you go. You want to come over here? Look at the idea, that's fine. And as you know, the Greeks had this idea that actually the world had a moral order to it. And the moral order was something which could be violated, and if it was violated, then there would be repercussions, because the cosmos would detect what was going on. So I decided to do an experiment with my students. And the experiment was, students, I chose the biggest, strongest guy in class. Here's a whip. I want you to give me a little ass. So I displayed this Charles Atlas body. Oh yeah. So what's there? And I got down, put my hands on the chair, and I told her, whip me. But this kid, we had agreed already that he would actually whip me. I gave him permission to, and he did whip me. But he didn't just whip me one time. After he whipped me once, I said, more. More, harder. And I got into this transcendental mindset where I could feel no pain. I mean, it was just such an incredible experience. And so what ended up happening was, I said, again, harder, and there was silence. Because the kid, he just took the whip and he broke it in two and threw it down. So I'm not going to do this. Well, can you imagine the discussion we had about crime and punishment? And is there a moral order to the universe after that little demonstration? Oh. And I kept my job. So, just because you're an English teacher doesn't mean there's not all kinds of ways that you can do things that your students will never forget. Taste, any questions, comments? Yeah. Anything else?
Can we see the field trip now?
Yeah. Want to see the field trip? Yeah. Okay, let's see. How do you get this?
Hit escape.
Escape? Oh, okay, good. Yeah, so I'm going to close this guy down. Yeah, the field trip, we went to, I've taken field trips. I've taken field trips to the zoo and the jail. The jail field trip is incredible. Oh, here we go. Okay, here's the field trip. Yeah. Okay, and as you know already, this is a free field trip, so not a problem. More volume? Okay.
Putting one foot in front of the other, stepping into the here and now. I'm not sure just where I'm going, but I will get there anyhow.
On Tuesday, Ratcliffe's class set out on an adventure of just 2 hours. Believe it or not, these 2 hours changed my perspective in visualizing things and opening my heart and mind. I was in for the best experience of my life, and I had no idea. We landed next to our evaluation and finally made it past our high school's gates. As we were walking, we started to talk to our classmates around us. We were laughing, singing, and enjoying how beautiful the day was. At this point, I felt so connected to my classmates. They put a huge smile on my face. This was a feeling I never felt before. This trip was amazing. You don't always have to do something just to get a grade or a gift in return. You have to do it because you want to. It comes out of your heart to do something nice and to be generous. What I experienced Tuesday is something I'm always going to remember because it's sad to see all those people in there. I even saw an old friend of mine whose family is now homeless and she's in there getting food and shelter. The last time I saw her before that was elementary school, and it just felt sad to see her there when it wasn't like that back 6 years ago. The moment she saw me, it's like she also remembered me. She covered her face so I wouldn't see if she was now a client of the Poverello house. I now want to help the homeless because they're humans like us and need to get their life back how it was before going that direction. I'm going to help so girls my age like her won't have to be homeless and be ashamed of it. Walking to the Poverello house and listening to what your former student was telling us made me realize that tomorrow is never promised to be good. One day you can live a good life, and the next, everything you have can be gone. I learned not to be ungrateful. While walking to the art museum, I started to realize how grateful I am. This funnel was the best. It was really fun. I learned that tests don't always have to be on scantrons, and that you don't always have to sit in a classroom for 2 hours to learn something. I enjoyed the experience I had at the art museum and learning how other people see and consider art. This experience made me learn a lot. It's kind of hard for me to explain it or to put it into words, but I can't wait for our next final. I've never had so much fun on a final exam. I learned that there is an art museum right behind my house that's really cool. What I really got from that field trip was that walk and having a good time and all getting along. It was great. I don't think I've ever got along so good with a group of people. This trip was amazing. On our way to the art museum, it was so fun. When I got inside, it was like another world. I saw the most beautiful, most out-of-this-world sculptures and paintings that just blew me away. I could not believe my eyes, especially when that man blew the glass bottle. That was insanely cool. There were cats, a lot of sculptures and paintings. They were so unique, I can't even describe it. This is a sight you have to see in order to understand it. It taught me to open my mind to creativity, free the thought of poetry to create a masterpiece of beauty. I learned to be my creative self. I have the ability to create anything, just have to put my mind on it. This field trip was by far one of the best I've ever had. I would like to personally thank Mr. Ratcliffe for allowing me not only to go, but to be a part of this adventure into not the bad of life, but the goodness of life. This trip opened my eyes to see a new world of kindness, caringness, and hope.
Thank you. Welcome to